Stop everything, sit down, take a deep breath. Because what you are about to hear over the next few minutes is not just another cute motivational video meant to give you a fake smile and leave you exactly the same way you were before. No, today is different. Today you didn't end up here by accident. If you pressed play on this video, it's because something inside you deep down already suspects. This heavy phase you are living through, this exhaustion that seems to have no end, these people who seem to take pleasure in seeing you stumble, these doors that slam in your face at the last minute, this feeling of carrying the world on your back while others seem to walk light, all of this is not a coincidence. And I am here to tell you, in no uncertain terms, without beating around the bush, without fluff, it is over. The day of reckoning against my oppressors has finally come at this exact moment in your journey. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you deserve it. It is now. And in this video, I am going to show you 3 things that no one has had the courage to tell you until today. How to recognize who is really oppressing you, why this battle has lasted so long in your life, and what is the exact step that will turn the tide starting today. If you are over 35, if you've taken too many falls, if you've been betrayed, discarded, forgotten, or stepped on, pay close attention. Because what comes next could be the turning point you've been waiting for years. Before I continue, I need to ask you a quick favor. Subscribe to this channel and turn on the notifications. I know you hear this in every video, but today I will explain why. Because the YouTube algorithm does not deliver this type of content to everyone. It hides it, it pushes it down. And the only way for this message to reach the next person who needs to hear it is if you do your part. Like this video, leave a comment with the word settled, and stay with me until the end, because what comes next will shake some structures that have been stagnant inside you for a long time. Let's start at the beginning. You need to understand one thing before anything else. Not every oppressor wears a uniform. Not every oppressor shouts. Not every oppressor hits you. The most dangerous oppressors in your life today, those who are stealing your sleep, your peace, and your joy, are exactly those you cannot clearly identify. And that is why you haven't won yet. How are you going to defeat an enemy you don't even know exists? So pay attention to the symptoms, because I am going to give you a diagnosis now that probably no therapist, no pastor, and no friend has ever given you so directly. First symptom, you wake up tired. Not the tiredness of someone who worked too hard. It is a tiredness of the soul. You open your eyes in the morning and, even before coffee, you already feel a weight on your chest, a desire to disappear, a thought of, can I handle another day of this? You drag your body to the bathroom, look at that face in the mirror, and barely recognize the person from 10 years ago. This, my friend, is not just stress. It is not just routine. This is the sign of someone living under an oppression that has exceeded the limits of your natural endurance. Second symptom, everything in your life takes longer than in others' lives. You see people who joined the company after you getting promoted. You see younger relatives buying houses while you still pay rent. You see colleagues getting married, having children, traveling, prospering. And you are there, stuck in the same place, hitting your head against the same wall. This is not a lack of effort. I know you try. I know you wake up early. I know you don't give up easily. But something is holding your feet. Something is delaying everything. And that something has a name. Third symptom, you attract the wrong people. Always. In every job there appears a boss or colleague who seems to take pleasure in humiliating you. In every relationship, someone appears who drains your energy. In every church, in every group, in every circle of friends, there always appears that person who watches you with that look you can't explain, but which gives you chills. This is not a coincidence. This is a pattern, and patterns have a cause. Fourth symptom, money comes in and disappears. You get your paycheck and by the 15th it's gone. An unexpected expense arises, the car breaks down, your child needs something, someone in the family gets sick, a forgotten bill appears, the statement comes doubled, the installment you swore you had paid off returns. There is always a hole, there is always an unforeseen event, and you ask yourself, I don't earn that little, why can I never save anything? Why can I never get out of this? Why does it feel like there's a hole in my pocket that no amount of effort can patch? Fifth symptom, your dreams have lost their shine. You remember when you were younger in your 20s and you had that project, that huge desire to do something, to build your own business, to travel abroad, to write a book, to change careers, to help people, to serve God in a deeper way. Remember. And today, out of nowhere, that has become a joke in your head. Today, when you think about those old dreams, a little voice comes along saying, "Don't be silly, that's not for you. You're past the age, that's over." Yeah, that voice is not yours. That voice has an owner, and its owner is exactly the oppressor you need to identify. Did you recognize at least 2 of these symptoms? I bet you recognize 3, 4, maybe all 5. And look, the fact that you are recognizing them is the first big step. Because while you thought the fault was only yours, while you tortured yourself in silence thinking it was laziness, weakness, lack of faith, or lack of competence, you had no way to react. You hurt yourself inside, called yourself a failure, compared your life to your colleague's Instagram, and dove even deeper into the hole. But the moment you understand that there is a system of oppression acting in your life, the game changes. And this is exactly where many people get stuck. So stay with me, because I am going to show you now where these oppressors come from. And when you understand the origin, you will feel a lightness you haven't felt in a long time. But first, let me remind you, comment "settled" below if you are feeling what I am talking about in your own skin. This comment is not just for me, it is for you to seal with your own voice that this story is changing right now. And share this video with that person you know needs to hear this. That friend who is always tired, that brother who is buried in debt, that cousin who lost their spark. You could be the instrument to liberate someone today. Now let's get to the cause. Why you of all people ended up in this situation. Why does it seem like some people were born lucky and others with a noose around their necks? Why are there entire families that prosper and entire families that sink? The answer is not simple, but it is liberating. There are 3 major sources of oppression in a person's life, and I will explain each one of them calmly because you need to understand it in order to react. The first source is what we call generational oppression. It's like this. You didn't arrive in this world from zero. You are the fruit of a history. Your grandparents, your parents, their parents, they went through things, they made choices, they carried weights. And much of what they didn't resolve, much of what they didn't heal, was left for you. That alcoholism of your grandfather that no one wanted to admit, that trauma of your grandmother that was swept under the rug, that gambling debt of your uncle, that family fight over an inheritance, that betrayal no one forgave, that child who was rejected and never returned home. All of this became an invisible mold that imprinted itself on your history without you asking. And that is why you find yourself repeating patterns you swore you would never repeat. That is why you married someone like your father. That is why you have the same fear as your mother. That is why your relationship with money is exactly like your family's. You are not crazy. You are inside a chain, and this chain needs to be broken. The second source is what I call oppression by pact. A pact, in spiritual language, is any deep decision you made at some point in your life that opened a door for something to come in and live with you. It could have been at 14 when you promised yourself, "I will never trust anyone again." It could have been at 22 when you said, "If I have to step on someone to climb, I will." It could have been after that divorce when you told the mirror, "I don't deserve to be happy." It could have been after that betrayal, that firing, that death, when you made a silent agreement with pain and said, "From now on, it's just survival." These pacts, these declarations, become spiritual and emotional contracts that govern your life for decades, without you noticing. And as long as these contracts are not torn up, they remain valid. You might prosper a little, but there is always something that pulls you back, because your word is still in effect. The third source, and this is the most delicate, is oppression by contact. You are the average of the people you spend time with. This is not a cheap self-help phrase. This is a fact proven by serious studies of human behavior. The 5 people closest to you, in terms of time spent together, will define 90% of what you feel, what you decide, and what you attract. And here lies a serious problem. You may be carrying others' oppression without knowing it. That friend who calls every week to vent but never asks how you are. That brother-in-law who is always making snide remarks at every Sunday lunch. That boss who abuses your time, your patience and your dedication, and still looks at you as if you owe them a favor. That mother who still today, after you've passed 40, talks to you as if you were a child who knows nothing. Each of these people is an open door. Each heavy conversation, each unfair criticism, each shared drama is a dose of oppression being injected into your spiritual vein. And the sum of this at the end of the month is a poison that paralyzes you. Do you see the scale of what we are dealing with here? This is not a mess. This is not being dramatic. This is not whining. It is a complete system of generational, spiritual, and relational oppression that has been erected in your life since before you were born and reinforced by every wrong decision, every silent pact, every misguided friendship. But I didn't bring you here to scare you. I brought you here to set you free. Because now comes the most important part of this video, and I ask you from my heart, do not turn it off now. If you turn it off, you will lose exactly the key that can change your life starting today. Before the key, I want to tell you a quick story that will hit home. There is a man, let's call him Old Man Miller, from Appalachia, 58 years old, married, 3 children, a truck driver his whole life. This man worked since he was 14. Honest, dedicated, God-fearing. One of those who never owes a cent to anyone. One of those who pays the neighbor's bill when the neighbor is struggling. But his life was a succession of stumbles. He would buy a truck. It would be totaled. He would start a business with a partner. The partner would scam him. He would try to help a child. The child would sink into addiction. He had already fallen into depression, had already thought about giving up, had already fought with God in silence inside his room, in the middle of the night with his wife sleeping beside him unaware. And then, at a weekend retreat in the interior of Appalachia, someone looked at him and said, "Old Man Miller, have you ever asked yourself whose voice is saying inside your head that you don't deserve to prosper?" He stopped, he thought, he cried, because he realized at that moment that that voice was identical to his father's voice, who had passed away 30 years ago and who always repeated to him, "Miller, people like us were born to work for others. Don't try to be more than you are." In one sentence, in a single sentence spoken by his father when he was 7 years old, the destiny of half a century of defeats was forged. And when Old Man Miller renounced that sentence, out loud in no uncertain terms, and declared a new reality over his life, in 6 months, the man's life turned around. He received a partnership offer that turned him into the owner of a small transport company. The son who was in addiction sought treatment on his own. His wife, who had been distant, started smiling again. I tell you this not to give you cheap hope. I tell you this because what happened to Old Man Miller is exactly what can happen to you, and it will happen if you do what I am going to teach you now. The moment you've waited for this entire video has arrived. The solution, the path to the settled victory. And no, it is not a mystical formula. It is not selling your soul. It is not dropping everything and going to live in a cave. It is a sequence of 5 internal movements that, when done with seriousness, break the system of oppression from the inside. Get a pen and paper, or at least keep this in your memory, because each of these steps is worth gold. The first movement is called identification. You need, today before sleeping, to sit alone in a quiet place and write down the names of your oppressors. Not just people's names. I'm talking about the names of situations, feelings, patterns. For example, fear of not being able to handle it, my mother's voice calling me weak, comparison with my older brother, shame of having gone bankrupt at 40, anger at the company that fired me after 22 years of service. Put it all on paper, everything that is oppressing you, because what has no name continues to dominate you in the dark. And what has a name you can look at head-on. The second movement is called renunciation. This one is powerful. Look at each item you wrote and say out loud, I renounce. I renounce this influence over my life. I renounce the right this thing had to rule over me. Today, it ends. I know it sounds strange. I know it sounds like something from a church or a therapist or something for weird people. But trust me and trust yourself. Words have weight. The mouth has power. When you verbalize a renunciation, you spiritually cut a bond that was suffocating you, and you will feel it. You might get chills, you might feel like crying. A strange peace might come over you. All of this is a sign that it is working. The third movement is called declaration. This is where most people fail because most people only know how to complain. Most people only know how to talk about the problem, the bad boss, the bad marriage, the bad health, the bad government, the bad country. And that only waters what is tearing you down. You need to start declaring the life you want to see, out loud, every day. In the morning, in front of the mirror, before coffee, before checking your phone, before opening WhatsApp groups. Declare, I am blessed, my family prospers, my debts are being paid off, my body is being healed, my mind is at peace, my old dreams are coming back to life. And don't tell me this is a lie because it hasn't happened yet. Every harvest was once a seed, every house was once a blueprint, every victory was once a declaration made by a person no one believed in. Do this for 21 days and tell me the result in the comments. The fourth movement is called cutting off, and this is the hardest of all because it involves courage. You need to cut contact, gradually or all at once, with people who are systematically oppressing you. I am not saying you should abandon your family. I am not saying you should be rude. I am saying you should set a boundary with those who drain you. That WhatsApp group that only dumps emotional trash in your head, leave it. That friendship that only calls to complain and never asks how you are, decrease the frequency. That romantic relationship that has been belittling you for years, that makes you feel ugly, stupid, incapable, small. Have a real conversation, seek help, and if there is no other way, make the decision your soul is begging you to make. You are over 35. You don't have time to waste with people who don't respect your value. The fifth movement, and perhaps the most important of all, is called surrender. After you have identified, renounced, declared, and cut off, there will still be a residual weight. This weight you cannot resolve alone, and it is okay to admit that. I believe, and this is a conviction of mine that I share with you with an open heart, that there is a living God who is looking at your story at this exact moment, who knows your name, who knows what you have been through, and who wants to be invited to enter your life in a different way than you have known him until today. If you are a Christian, return to him with humility, without pretense, without a mask, just as you are. If you are not, give this conversation a chance, without pressure, without religion, just with an open heart, because the victory over spiritual oppressors does not come only through your effort. It comes through a higher authority that acts in your cause when you surrender. And when this authority acts, no one can hold you back. Now I want to look into your eyes, even through the camera, and tell you something that needs to be engraved in your memory for the coming months. You were not made for this small life. You were not placed in this world to carry pain for decades. You didn't come this far after everything you've been through just to give up now. Everything that happened to you, even the most terrible things, even the injustices, even the losses, even the humiliations, even the betrayals, all of this was building material. All of this gave you testimony, calluses, wisdom, and a survivor's instinct. And a survivor at the right time becomes the owner of their own story. You are in that time. I know you are. There is good stuff coming. There is a turnaround happening behind the scenes that you don't see. There is a door being opened that you haven't seen yet. There are people by your side helping you that you don't even suspect. And there is an oppressor falling right now at the exact moment you hear my voice. Look, I am going to be very honest with you in this final part. This video you are watching was not made to be pretty. It was not made to be funny. It was not made to be viral. This video was made to wake you up, to get you off the bench where life has tried to keep you for too long, to remind you of who you were before the world beat you down, to introduce you again to the version of you that still exists, sleeping inside, waiting for someone to call it by name. I called. Now it is up to you. What you do from this moment on will define the next 5, 10, 20 years of your story, and I trust you. I believe you will rise. I believe you will win. I believe this bitter phase in a while will become a testimony that you will tell your grandchildren, with tears in your eyes and a smile on your face. To close, I want to ask you 3 things. The first, subscribe to this channel now if you haven't already. Here there is no fluff. Here there are no soft words. Here is where the truth hurts and heals at the same time. The second, click the like button and turn on the notifications. This helps this content reach people who are thinking about giving up today, people who are crying alone right now, and who need exactly this message to keep breathing. The third, comment below. Tell me which of these 5 symptoms touched you the most, which of the 5 movements you will start today. And most importantly, write the phrase, "The day of reckoning against my oppressors has finally come." Write it, even if it seems strange, because your comment will become a testimony. In 3 months, you will come back to this video, read your own comment, and be jaw-dropped at the magnitude of what happened in your life. And if this content touched something deep inside you, answer me a direct question, still in the comments. What was the oldest oppressor you identified in your story while watching this video? It could be a person, a feeling, a pact, a phrase said by someone in your childhood, a trauma you swore you had forgotten. Tell me. We create a community here, and when one tells their story, the other realizes they are not alone. And when no one is alone, oppression loses its strength. Remember this forever. You are no longer underneath. You are just about to see from above for the first time. Your victory has already been settled, heaven knows, the earth will see, and you, from now on, only walk, only rise, only build, only prosper, only win. See you in the next video. And may the most beautiful phase of your story begin today, now, at this exact second you finish listening to me.